All right,
discuss
perfect.
as instructors. Yeah.
All right, again, just a quick recap, right? I think again this syllabus is just gonna consist of again 10 chapters. Intro to open source, that's gonna be
Yes.
chapter one. And then so today we're gonna be looking into open source. Again, of course, we're gonna talk about basic stuff like this. And I think since this is very basic stuff, we're just gonna cover this up because I believe that again, you guys should have knowledge about this, right? But if not, we can discuss about it. And then again, depending on how we're feeling, we can jump into this and run some just play with the CLI a little bit. Or actually we'll talk about before we even jump into that. Yeah, we're gonna cover all of this first. We're gonna cover all of this from here right up until this before we can even start running commands because this part is very important. Understanding Linux directory structure is just key. So
Okay.
with that much being said, we're just gonna jump into it. But before anything, does anybody have any question?
No, no questions so far.
Okay,
No,
perfect.
no question.
Awesome. All right. Man, let's talk about this. Oh, this is good. Actually, Owen, I just sent Steve this note. Please drop your email too. I'm gonna forward this note to you but when we're done.
Oh yeah, let me
Yeah,
drop that.
there you
Quick
go.
question.
Um,
Did you say
all right,
I can just do it later? Go.
all right, perfect. All right, again, this lesson is an intro to Linux. We're gonna talk about it. And the thing is, I love this intro part just because when we talk about Linux, sometimes people shiver, right? Especially when you see the black screen, you're like, God damn it. Especially like when I first got introduced to it, to I shivered. The same reaction because it's just a black screen, man. Like, where do you even start clicking? But again, when you think about Linux as an operating system, the way what helps me kind of like, feel better about it is just the fact that, hey, it's just like any other operating system. We have Mac OS, we have Windows, we have Solaris, we have like these are all like, different operating systems. So, and Linux just happens to be one of them. That now in today's world, we have a GUI for Linux too, right? GUI, the graphical user interface, we have it for Linux, but most people prefer to still use the command line. Like you don't have to use the command line with Linux if you don't want to. There's actually a whole software you can install. I forgot what it's called, but it was one of the projects that I did in school where we you install a Linux server and then like you install the piece of software that helps you access your Linux box. Oh, man, I'm curious. Have you dealt with like Kubernetes pods where like
Yeah.
okay, good. So have you guys you've used like a Kubernetes something like a I don't know like a Kubernetes UI, maybe something like Rancher, or we have a lot of them, or any open telemetry tool that gives you visualize what's happening in your pod and things like that, what's happening in your environment without you necessarily having to run those commands. Like you can see them. So we have like that's how advanced Linux has gotten now.
Oh, that's
And
cool. I mean, I've
oh
heard
yeah.
about it. But not, I've
Oh
not.
no,
I don't think I've used Rancher before. So
oh yeah.
I'm still running the commands every day. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, you're still in the comments every day. Maybe that's a suggestion you can talk. But the thing is, sometimes when you suggest now, they put you behind it and like you go get stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like, oh,
But
hey, take us there.
yeah. Okay. Again, learning objective for this specific thing, like by the end of this course, you should be able to demonstrate understanding, like again, Linux directory structure, which is like the key. If you don't understand this, if you don't understand Linux directory structure, don't proceed. There's no need. Like I'm just gonna be very, very honest. If you don't understand
Yeah.
this, you don't even waste your time to proceed. This is where Linux starts, the directory
Okay.
structure. And as we proceed, you're gonna see that directory structure, all direct, like everything begins with root, the root file system. And I'm gonna like, talk about it in conjunction to the C drive in Windows to make some other kinds of comparisons so we can better understand what we're talking about. All right. Again, we're gonna understand by this, we should be able to demonstrate understanding of user package management, of course. So we're gonna see some batch scripting, and then we're gonna, do a bit of, I mean, we're already kind of like using the platform, but like, as we progress, we're gonna like, play with it a little bit. I don't know how far I can go with AWS, with cloud computing AWS, but I can go as far as I can. Good thing is, Ubuntu is a cloud guy, so some things that I forgot, so maybe he's gonna like help us with that as well as we proceed.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. When you think of open source, first of all, let me just ask you guys a question. When you think of open source, when we say open source, what are you thinking? This is gonna be a discussion class, so we're discussing. When you think about open source, what are you thinking? Like, what's coming into your head? Don't give me. I don't. Let's not do like book definitions and stuff. Let's just talk about like the way, like how do I, let's simplify it. Like, how, what do you think when you think of open source? Yes, Steve.
Yeah, I'll say that is just like free source of software that you can use. There's no restriction or subscription.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to buy it out of the bat to use
Mm-hmm.
it. It's
Mm-hmm.
just free out there to be used.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Perfect. And okay. And oh, but anything?
Yeah, I'll look at it like for example, you have a recipe that that recipe has been published for like everybody in the whole world. Then people can now take that recipe and kind of tweak it
Yo.
so that it fits their taste. Then share their versions with the
Mm,
public and just
Yeah.
prioritize, make sure they actually put their versions as they are. Like Amazon can take it and quick tweak it, Microsoft can tweak it, but it's the same recipe in the back end. So
Yo.
that's how I'm looking at it. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So again, and we know that when we talk about software categorized into three categories, right? We have the license, we have free, and we have open source. So we're saying that the open source is free, the
yeah,
source code is free, which means available for everybody, for anybody, right? But then we have other categories. For example, a good example of an open source software, you guys know, it's sometimes when we talk about these things, it's like almost as if it's far-fetched. Like Google Chrome, for example, that browser that you use is open source. When you go download it, you know, you
Yeah.
you pretty much just use it for free, yeah. And then we have the other things like free software. Like think about the like Teams, for example. I don't even want to say that. Maybe I don't even think Google is open source there. Can you modify Google? I don't know. You know what? Let's just use Linux as an example.
Yeah,
Linux
people
is open
clone.
source.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why Linux is open source, and then you can modify the source code, and that's why we have other versions, right? We have Ubuntu, we have Alma Linux, we have Amazon Linux, we have CentOS. That's that's because it's free, right? So people can you like pretty much Stevo, you can modify the open source and get your
yes.
own Stevo Linux. You know what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
the best way, the way this shit was explained to me, the way that I grasp it easily, is this. This is this way. You look at it like food, right? For example, if you go to a restaurant and you pay for food, so think of it like that's a licensed software, right?
Yes.
And then now, but if you come to my house and I give you food and you don't have to pay for it, that's a free food. That's a free meal right there. But now, what about situation where you come to my house, I give you the food, you eat the food, you like it so goddamn much that you ask for the recipe and I give you the recipe. So whenever you need to eat that food, you don't have to come to my house anymore. You have the recipe, you know how I made it. So you can just make it for yourself. That's the
Okay.
concept of open source, right? So the software and the source code is free. And because they're both free, that's why we have a lot of different distributions like the CentOS, the Ubuntu, the Red Hat, the Debian, the Alma Linux, Amazon, all those things. All right. Any questions?
No questions so far.
All right. Perfect. All right. Now, understanding CLI versus, versus GUI. Again, it was only up until like I think maybe like 2023, because like I think I used to hear people say GUI, GUI, GUI all the time. I didn't even know what a GUI was. Are we do we know what like a CLI is, and do we know what a GUI is?
Um,
Feel free,
ye-
no answer is wrong. We're here to learn.
okay, okay. So the GUI for me is mostly like an interpretation of whatever the system is giving, like either in the common way on the back end, right? Like
Mhm,
instead of having it as a writing situation, the GUI
mhm,
is like there to interpret it as a icon, picture, things like that, just to be able to use your mouse and navigate through it.
Okay, okay. Yeah, you use a what?
Your
Navigate.
mouse pretty much.
Okay, okay.
Mhm.
Perfect. Oven, anything?
Yeah, I think the
Even the
GUI is kind
keyboard.
of like it's kind of like what as the visual interface that you see. Like for example, when you open up your AWS console,
Mm,
that's the AWS console GUI. You have buttons in there. You have like the menu. You have different icons that you can click. You can point and click.
Yeah.
So
perfect.
that's the GUI. Then when it concerns the CLI, it's mostly is that place where you type commands into like a shell, like a terminal to like
Mhm.
execute actions. Yeah.
Yep,
Mhm.
yep. So
Like the command
yeah,
prompt.
in
Yeah.
plain English, yep. This is oh, did it class not registered error? You know what? Fuck it. It's all good. So yeah, in plain English, as
This
simple
is the
as that.
CLI.
This is CLI. CLI is just the interface where or the command the interface where you type your command. CLI, command line interface. It's just the interface where you type your command. So with CLI, everything is command based. And then with GUI, think of this is my Windows system. Right now, I'm in the GUI, right? Right now, if I need to copy something, I right click on it and like I copy, do anything. So anything that involves like clicking, doing all this shit that we do on a day to day, as long as you're not on the command line, you're using a what? A graphical user interface. So we're good with that concept, yeah?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Again, yep. you know, Understanding CLI versus GUI, how tasks are executed in Linux. So, for example, in Windows, which is just what I showed you, we have the graphical user interface. All the clicks that we're clicking right now, what I'm doing with walking around with this mouse, hovering the mouse, I'm using my graphical user interface. And on Linux, we're going to be using CLI, and exactly it's going to look like this. We're going to have something like this. And then, of course, again in Linux, one thing that we should know in Linux is that Linux uses script, which is a combination of what commands, right? And that's what we talk about when we talk about bash script. So when you combine a bunch, for example, you can do ls, you can do you can have a lot of bunch of commands that does different shit, but then when you combine them in a bash file in a script and execute it as a bash file, that makes it what a Linux script. So it's just a combination of different commands, a bunch of commands. And then again, one very crucial thing that we need to know with Linux is that Linux, this is not a joke. This is not Linux is case sensitive. Lowercase ls is not the same as uppercase ls, and we can see on this demonstration here. Ls will list what I have on my. So if a command is ls in lowercase, it can never be uppercase ls. No, it's not going to work. So ls command not found, but ls lists you what files and directories in the current or where you are, the current folder that you are in. So it shows you whatever files or folders that you have in the current folder that you're already in. So again, Linux is what case sensitive. Very, very important to note that part. Any question before we proceed
No.
to the good? Okay.
Yeah.
Now let's get to the good stuff, man. Hmm. Now the Linux directory structure, and I like this particular image, and the reason I picked this particular image is because unlike some images, they just line everything in the same way, like with the
Yeah,
same
they put
path.
it in vertical instead of
Yeah. So
horizontal. Mhm.
so exactly because like you first of all you need to understand that Linux starts with the root. So you see the root is just this forward slash, and when I say the root, to better understand it, think of it in Windows as the C drive. The C drive in Windows, that's where everything starts.
Yes.
You know, in here, C drive, if you delete this drive, like your computer is as good as fucked, right? Every everything starts from here, from the C drive. When you go to the C drive, that's where you have your user account, like and stuff. So if you delete the C drive, you don't have a user account, like everything. And from your user account, you got your profiles, you got your folders, you got everything else. So if the C drive is gone, your computer is as good as gone too. Just throw the whole thing away. So in the same way, Linux starts with the root file system. Everything else And again, I'm not saying that these guys are not important. No, these guys are very important, and we're gonna go into some key ones, and we're gonna discuss about them and why it's important, why we need to understand, why we need to know them. But in as much as they're important, root is the key guy. Everything else starts with root. So now let's look at some of the, some of anybody have any questions about the directories, what we're looking at here before we close? If I'm going too fast,
Um,
like, if you have a question, just pause me because
no,
sometimes I
no
can just,
problem. Everything
yeah,
is good so far.
okay.
Just a quick question about the root. I know that there's like a normal root,
Hmm.
ROOT, and then there's like
And the what? I think you're going to mute.
Oh, did maybe it broke down? Yeah. Still, are you there?
oh, okay, he's back. Yeah, I don't know what happened with my laptop.
Oh,
Um,
shit.
so I was talking about the root slash and the root, file.
Hmm.
So I just wanted to make sure, like the slash one is it's always the one starting, and then you know,
Wait, sorry.
like on the picture.
I missed your question. Uh-huh. What is the question?
Oh, I just wanted to make sure that I understand that there's like two different routes, but the
Hmm.
slash one is the main one.
Oh, no, 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 no. So, okay,
Because
okay.
sometimes there's some file in Linux that have the root name, even though it's not the slash one.
Can you give me an example? I feel like
Yeah,
I'm trying
like
to
like on
understand.
the picture, you see you have
Mhm.
home root var there.
Uh-huh. Oh, you mean like you mean like it starts like with a slash and it has home? For example, wait, hold on. Where's my this thing here? Guys, I'm really sorry. I feel
Yeah,
like I fucked up. I'm gonna try and fix my this thing so that as we're talking, we can be demonstrating because I don't,
no,
you know
no
what?
problem. Like
Let
I,
let me fix this shit. I don't even know
I
why
was
I'm
just,
wasting time.
Me, your
it's
terminal.
fine. We can still go
Yeah.
from here. I will see it's something like that, and then I'll show you.
Okay.
I
All
still
right.
understand what you mean here anyway. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Perfect. So yeah, the root directory structure, and again, I don't know if you're also because like this guy is the same as a root user. This guy, this forward slash here, root is root. So the user and this folder
Okay.
is the same thing. Because again,
Okay.
because with the root, again, the Linux directory structure starts with the root file system, right? And with the root file system, you're going to create the root user because the root user is also the first user. In fact, is the default user when you set up a Linux system. It's the default user that is created in the system when you just set up your Linux system.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
So
makes sense.
now, if
I think
we
I have a
dive into,
question.
go ahead.
So my question is like the one that just put in it. Like, what's the difference between the slash, which is the root, and that tilde sign?
So this tilde sign, the way I don't think I know like a specific. I don't think that I know like a strict reason or where this tilde is, but I know that this tilde is used to specify, for example, if you want to query a directory and you don't completely know the path, I feel like what tilde does is it searches. Oh, you know what? Why are we doing this? Let's look
Because I
at
always
some.
hear people calling both of them root, and I'm like, wait.
No, 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 no. Tilde is not root. Tilde is not. Let's not confuse that.
It's probably on the Windows side one or
Difference between. No, that tilde is used in Linux too. It's used, but I've seen it like, for example, if you
what
if
what
you
was
look
the name again? I used to say single something, but is it
tilde, yeah.
tilde?
Difference between tilde, tilde sign, and root on Linux. Let's
I
see
think
this.
I think one is just like you remember when you explained to me the home directory
Oh,
under users?
Oh
So
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
it seems like one is like just for the directory of the user, and then the
Yep,
other
yeah.
one is
Yep,
actually the
exactly.
root.
Yeah, the tilde sign is used to represent the current user's home directory in Linux. Yep. While the root directory is a directory for the root user. Yep. Okay. The tilde used to represent the current user's home directory in Linux. All right. So whatever directory you're in, that just, the tilde is gonna Uh, so for example, oh, but this is it. Yeah, this is it here. I should have known because, for example, this is it, and right now we are in the slash solo. We're in the, like, slash home of slash solo because like we're if you look at this user here, solo, and
So
solo, yeah, solo is a user that belongs in the home directory, which is what we're gonna see as we're looking at the directory structure. So we're gonna see again. We're gonna talk about what I mean by solo is in slash home. We're going to see that as we proceed. So again, Linux has a well-organized directory structure with various directories, right? Serving specific functions. And here's a list of some important Linux directories. So we're not going to talk about all of the directories. We're not going to talk about all of these, but like, I've dropped a link that has like, that explains all of this directories. But I'm just going to focus
Mhm.
on some of the key ones that you mostly like, you're most likely to use on a day-to-day, especially at work.
Okay,
Yeah. So again, the
perfect
first
for the
one,
exam.
yeah, again, note better directory. What is the function? Again, the function is what is the top level directory that contains all other directories and files on the system. It is the base directory for the entire file system. I want you to take note of this. It is
Okay,
the top level. It is the top level directory that contains what? All other directories. So if root is gone, you don't have a server, pretty much. If root directories does not exist, you don't exist. It's that simple.
okay.
It is the top directory and it contains all other directories and files on that system.
So
And we
can
can
I
see it here.
summarize that as where Linux can have multiple directories, but then the root directory is the one that is on top of all of them, like pretty
Absolutely.
much.
As
Okay,
exactly and as indicated here like this. You see, everyone else is here. Everyone root is up here by himself, the top directory.
okay,
Everything else, it starts with root and everything else falls under root. All of these other guys are very important too, and we were going to dive into some of them to see why they are important. But in as much as they are important, root, they fall under root. Root is the start. So root is
okay.
the top directory. Without root, we don't have a file system. And then, for example, when we do a simple command like the ls forward slash, and I think PowerShell, let me see, ls forward slash, this is a Linux command, so it's a switch over, but it's going to be showing me my Windows stuff. So for example, you see when I do the ls root, what does it show me? So this is just to show you that root is the same as the C drive in Windows. You see that when I did the ls and I specified that show me the root, it started with what? Directory C. It showed me everything in C. Show me everything up onto user. So imagine if you were to delete this directory C drive, everything else is gone. Look at my users is here, and that's where my user profile is, you know. So
Mhm.
that is that. And then moving on. Next direction that we're gonna look at is bin. You see, one of them. Bin is right here. Where is bin? Bin is right here. We have bin, we have S bin. So when we look at something like bin, for example, bin is a very, very good command. Bin is a very, very good direction that I like. And you realize why I say it's important. So with the bin directory, does anybody have Sivo, do you have your server on?
Yes, I do have.
Yeah,
I didn't
please
start
actually.
the EC2. You want me to do
Yeah,
it now?
please go ahead and start your EC2. I want us to be showing some of these things as we proceed.
Okay.
Yeah, I want us to look at this thing so we're not just like, we're not just talking on paper, but we actually know what we mean by what we're saying. So start your EC2 instance.
Okay.
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like those are also good. The order of these things are like I've gotten the questions in interviews as well.
Oh,
Like
you've
there's
got some
always
questions in the interview, right? Yep.
yeah,
Yeah.
for these directories, yeah, some people will be like, oh, what directory stores your binaries, or like what
Ah,
directory stores blocks. So
aha.
it's kind of
There
the
you go.
question.
Yep.
Now, what was the question they were asking you?
So
Like for
the
example, like what directory stores like, for example, they'll be like, what directory stores like your for example, if there's a user error, where would you
Mhm.
go to?
oh,
Like,
you go to yeah.
to check what directory would you check that information? If there's for example, if you're installing a software by default, where does that software like, where does that software go to by default if you do not specify a directory and you just install something? on your system, by default, what directory does it go to? For example, the commands that you're running on your system, binaries, where are they stored? You know, for again, as we proceed, we're gonna see that there are binaries and there are other special binaries. You know, and we're gonna talk about that as we proceed. Let me know when you connect to your server. I want you to share your screen. Let's run some commands.
Yeah, let
I
me
forgot
share my
to
screen because it seems that something
I've
happening here.
forgotten where is it control panel that I go to? No, it's not control panel. Where do I go to do this thing? Yeah, click on it. That's what we're looking for.
That's the cloud shell, yeah.
Yep, that's it. It's gonna connect you to your instance. We're gonna use the cloud one. This is good. All right, let's do ls. Make sure that we have some stuff. Okay, we don't have anything. So do ls space forward slash. So let's list everything that we have in the root. No, no, forward slash, forward slash.
Oh, okay.
Remember, forward slash, we're trying to list everything in the root file, in the root system. Again, everything starts with the root directory, right? So
Yeah.
now these are all the folders. These are all the things that we're talking about currently. You see, you just do the ls for the root file system, and then these are all the other files and folders that are in root, under root, because root is a top level directory. So everything else falls under root. So when you do a list, when you say list, because ls forward slash simply means list everything that is in the root folder or is in the root directory, as we call it in Linux, right? So that's
Uh-huh.
what you did. And then now you're saying that in the root directory, which again, root is a top level directory, we have all these other folders. And all these other folders that we're looking at is what we're going to be talking about, right? Okay, now I'm going to take control back. Uh, okay, so oh man, you have your this thing, your terminal 2 open, right?
Yeah, yeah. I have
Okay,
my terminal open.
okay, perfect. So as we proceed, I just want you guys to run some of the commands as we can you guys see my screen?
Yeah, I can see your screen now.
I don't even see any indication that like my screen is being shared. That's weird. But you guys can see it?
Actually,
Yeah.
I can see
Um,
just. I don't think I'm seeing the right screen.
Yeah, because I'm not even seeing that my screen is being shared. So
it's probably sharing something else. Do you have a wireless display connected to it?
yeah. No, not wireless, but like let me see what it's sharing. I don't know what it's sharing. Let me share again. Oh, okay. Let's do this. Ah, more like it. Good now?
Yes. And
Okay,
you're
good.
on the PowerPoint, right?
Yeah, I'm the PowerPoint. Okay, perfect. So if you, Steve, if you look again where you did the ls forward slash, you're seeing this is basically what you're seeing, right? You're seeing some of these things. If you look, you're gonna see boot, you're gonna see etc, you're gonna see some of these guys that we're seeing here. And then the first on the list that we're gonna talk on, and again, I said we're only gonna talk about we're not gonna talk about all of these. We're gonna talk about the key ones that I think you may likely encounter them at work on a day-to-day, right? So
Yeah.
slash bin, function of it, essential command binaries. So what I want you to do now is I want you to run the command ls forward slash then bin, just like this. Do ls space and then slash bin, just as you see here.
Okay.
And let me know what you're seeing there. So ls forward slash bin.
Oh, Steve, is that your screen, Steve?
Yeah,
Yes.
Steve stole the screen again from me.
Oh yeah, your screen is good now.
Oh yeah,
It's
perfect.
no longer that.
Yeah, make it better. Okay, forward
Yeah.
slash bin.
No, no, no. Remember, no, no, no. There's no space. Remember, again, Linux is case sensitive. If there's something that does not have space and you put a space, it's gonna cry. So Linux, It's very, very case sensitive. You're supposed to type it exactly as it is. So Linux is crazy. It's like Linux, there's no maybe. It's either you know it or you don't,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So because you do ls forward slash and you give a space before you type it, it's gonna be a problem. So I want you to go do ls forward slash bin. No, 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 ls space. Ls is a command on its own. Ls is
Yeah.
the command, but you're saying list what? Yep, forward slash bin. And then I want you to pay attention. When you did ls, do ls forward slash ls space. Okay, good. That's it. When you did that initial command, ls space forward slash. You remember what you saw? Look, you saw AWS boot dev. Can you see it? AWS boot dev etc lib. Can
Yes.
you see it? Okay,
Yes,
good.
right here.
So, and if you go further, you're gonna see bin, right? You see bin, and now we are trying to look at what is in bin, and we know that bin is in root, right? In the
Right.
most in the simplest way, in the simplest way possible, right? What we're doing here in this very, very scenario is very. Let me steal your screen again for a bit. What we're doing here
Yes.
is very, 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 very what we're doing here is very, very, like, basic. And like, let me break this shit down so we're not confused on anything. Can you guys see my screen? For example, I'm gonna go to my desktop, right? All right. On my desktop, I'm gonna create a folder. I'm gonna call this folder root, right?
All right.
And then in here, I'm gonna create another folder. I'm gonna call it bin. In bin, I'm gonna I'm gonna create I'm gonna create, text document. I'm just gonna call it ls, right? Okay, so now if we go back, basically what we've done in Windows terms, this is exactly what was going on, right? We have our top level folder, which is root, right? And we're saying
Yes.
that inside of root, we have a directory called bin, right? Which is right here. And we're saying that inside of bin, we have what? We have essential command binaries. So basically, all the commands that you type in Linux, and this is why bin is important, right? All the commands
Yes,
that you type in Linux, right, Steve?
Yes.
All the commands that you're going to be typing in Linux, this is where they live. They live in here. They live in slash bin. So when you see slash bin, look at all of those things. You notice that all of those things are commands. You're going to see ls, you're going to see pwg, you're going to see all kinds of, like, in fact, all commands. Bin stores binaries. All the commands that we run on Linux, all the commands that we run on Linux, this is where they live, in the
Yeah.
slash bin. And
That
that's why
means
it's important.
even the ls, I saw it.
Yes, even
Yeah.
ls, any command.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I give some example. ls, cp, move, all those commands, you're gonna find them in there. All right,
Minus
now,
that. Okay.
we have another one, which is what? The slash boot. Again, boot falls again under root. These are core directories, right? Boot. And what are we saying that boot, or why do we even need to know why we need the boot? What is the function? It contains what? The bootloader configuration files, the kernel, brains of the system, the initial RAM disk files used during the boot process. Look, it's like, think of the boot, like, your ISO image. You guys have heard of ISO files, right? ISO images.
Yes.
So when it's like it's the boot drive, or the boot the boot image, so you need that. So if you're spinning, like, for example, a Linux server, and you don't have an operation, basically the boot is the kernel. And what is the kernel? The kernel is the brain of the system. Is the this boot folder, it has information about what the kernel and how the system is going to start up. So without this boot and without that ISO file that we're talking about, we cannot even boot our system. And we're saying that the boot information, the configuration file that contains what the bootloader lives in the slash boot. So for example, run the ls slash boot. The Linux image, there's where
Yeah, I think
is
I just did it on mine and I see that
yeah, you saw Linux images, right? I'm not sure why Steve does not
because
have it. I don't
because I'm in the VM. Steve is not
yeah,
in the.
yeah, Steven is not in the VM. Yeah, exactly. You know what? Thank you very much, Oben. Steven, you're not in the VM. You are in the
Okay.
VM, but you're using the cloud one, so things are just kind of like fucked up, unfortunately. But yeah, we'll fix that. So if you
Okay.
do a ls slash boot, you're supposed to see the boot images. At least you should have maybe one or two images in it, or even more. Because again, when you update, every time you update your Linux device, you
Yeah.
know, you reboot it, it changes, it upgrades the kernel version. So the old one stays in your boot folder, and then like the new one stays there as well. So over time, sometimes that's why when you see like, when the root drive is filling up, you have to go in there and like, remove some of those images because those images you've already upgraded and those images are outdated. So they're just there using up extra disk space. So you have to go delete them. So like, you can create more space for the root file system. So
Mm,
yeah. So and then moving forward, we have let me share back my screen here. All right. Moving forward. Any questions?
um, no question. No.
Okay. Oh man, you good?
Yeah, yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Is this making sense?
Yeah, it makes
Yeah,
sense. So far, I
Okay.
need it to be the virtual machine itself for me to be
Mhm.
able to
No,
see
don't,
inside the
don't, don't
boot.
don't worry. Don't worry. We'll, we'll,
Yeah.
we'll, we'll we'll fix you. We'll fix your issue before. I feel like over the week, let's just link up. Like, maybe one of those sessions where we play tennis. Then we can just like come back and like, work on it. I just completely forgot last time I saw you in this. Last time I saw you in Casagrande, like that would have been a perfect time to work on that. I just we
No.
were we were having fun, bro. When you're having fun, sometimes you don't want to do shit. So
but
No worry.
yeah, don't worry. We'll
but
we'll
which
try
is
and
the,
link
the
up this
the
week,
issue
and then
is
like we'll
the
fix.
mobile extern issue.
Yeah, Steve is having issues with mobile. I don't even understand why he should, but like I feel like I just need to see with my own two koro eyes to understand what's going on. I
Mm,
thought it should be like a very very easy, straightforward something, and even fuck that. Even like you can even use Putty, but don't worry. If we try, if I
I
realize
even
that
use
maybe
this one right now. It look
what
like
is
this. Oh shoot! I forgot I wasn't sharing.
that's why I'm like I can't even see that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which
that's
which
it.
which
Do
which VM
LS.
is that?
So you have a VM, and then why are we even out here suffering, man?
No,
Give me
this
this
one
guy.
is on virtual Oracle box.
Yeah. So okay, now do ls slash boot. You see that? Look, those are them. Those are all
Yeah,
those
those
the
are.
init RAMs, all those images. Yo, you see that? Those are
Yeah.
all yeah. Those are them right there. Those are those are the loaders. And then you see grub. You realize at some point that grub2 is a very very important file system of directory as we go. In fact, almost everything is important, but don't worry
Yeah.
yourself.
Okay,
Okay.
okay. Sounds good. Yeah.
All right, let's continue. Damn. Okay.
I'll let you share.
All right. Mm, okay. Perfect. All right. The next one is slash home. Oh my God. I love this one. I love this one a lot. So this one slash home. Earlier when we were talking, I was talking about solo belongs in, So you see, users users in a Linux system, users information. So when you create a user by default, it should, but anyways, let me not say by default, let me correct that. Because sometimes when you create new users in a system, what happens to that new user is that, for example, you go create a new user, Steve Ames, yeah? So that new user, if you do not also specify a home directory for it, that user is just going to be hanging there. It's not going to have a home directory. And users that do not have home directories, you can't even assign a password for them, right? And that's why, I mean, again, which is not always a bad case, right? Because, for example, if you want to create, say, like a service account, and what is a service account? A service account is just an account that it's logging in to maybe do something, or it's just there, it exists for a specific something. Think of a
Mhm.
service account almost as if it's an appliance. You know what they say about appliance? Appliance, a good example of an appliance is your router, right? Your router is just there for internet. It's not there for anything else. And it's there for a specific reason. So service accounts are there because they're doing something. So an account, a user account like a service account may not necessarily need a home directory, but a user account that you will need to log in and do stuff, you will need a home directory. And why do you need a home directory? So you can be able to give that user a password. Most service accounts are passwordless. They don't need a password because they are doing something very specific. They don't need interruptions. They just want to go and do it, right? So you can create service accounts like with the highest level of privilege, and you can give it the highest level of privilege. It just logs in and do what it needs to do. Sorry,
Okay.
man. I lost my train of thought. I feel like I was trying to say something.
No, no problem.
Oh, damn it. The root, the home directory. Yeah, okay. So when you create your user and then you give it a, and then like when you create a new user, you can also specify a home directory for that user. And all of these things we're going to see, all of this I'm talking about, we're just really trying to break down the directory structure. We're going to do all these things. We're going to see user management. We're going to create users. We're going to remove users. We're going to add users into different groups. We're going to take permission. We're going to give maybe like, we're going to mess with things to understand what we're talking about. So for now, I just want you guys to like, grasp the main point, which is root directory is key, is a top level directory, and under root directory, there are also some key directories that are important that we know. For example, we just saw the slash bin. Slash
Yes.
bin stores binaries, right? And we've seen that binaries are all the commands that we are running. And then we've also seen slash boot. It has like what the bootloader or the boot images for our operating system for when the system starts up. And then now we're looking at a very, very important directory again. Now this one is a slash home. And we're saying that with the slash home user directory, it contains the home directories for regular users. Each user has a separate subdirectory here for their personal files and settings, and which again goes back to, if you want to look at the Windows, if we go back to Windows and we look at the C drive, for example, if we go back to C, we're in the C drive, right? We go to our users.
Yes.
In here, these are my users. I can come in here easy, create another user profile, like, give that user profile a password, and I can log in into this PC with a different user account. It's as simple as that, right? So in the same way, it's the same thing that is happening here too. We're saying that home/home is where that information lives. In Windows, we're saying that our user information is in our C drive in users. That's where our user information is stored. Our user profile is stored. In Linux, it's stored in /home/home. So I want you to do a ls/home, Steve. You don't have to share your screen. Just do a ls space/home, the same way you're doing ls for the other ones.
Okay.
And tell me what you see. You should see maybe a EC2 user or something, or Ubuntu user or something, because that's the only user that you have on that system. And
Ubuntu.
Oben, let me know what you have.
I see Ubuntu.
Okay, you see Ubuntu. Yeah, you see Ubuntu because you remember you are logged in as Ubuntu, right?
Yeah.
We have not created any users. So by default, when we created that Ubuntu user, it automatically created a home directory for them. And that Ubuntu user is a root user. And the root user is the first user to be created. Is the first user that is created when you set up your Linux environment. And that user information is stored. We're saying that is being stored in the /home directory. That's where you're going to find all that information. Any question about this particular directory? And again, you don't have to memorize these things, but it's just good that you
Yes.
know, because if for example, if you're looking for a specific user information, at least now if you go into if you cd into slash home, you're gonna see all the users that are on that system or that have logged into that system, and then now you can get whatever information you want to get from it.
So that's what I have here because I created two user in that
Uh-huh.
virtual machine. So I have
Mhm.
two users showing. So
Per-
if you want to go to the
Perfect.
root cd, do you have to do cd
If you want to go into the
space?
root, no, so when you want to when you want to go into the root directory, is that what you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, if you want to go again, CD stands for change directory. So to go into any directory, you're going to use the CD command, which means change directory. So now, if you want to go into the root directory, you just do CD forward slash
Okay.
CD forward slash. So like change directory into root, CD forward slash. And don't worry about those commands yet. We're going to demo all of these commands. All of this, we're going to demo them when we start getting on the hands-on part. This is just like
Okay.
more of like a general overview, get us familiar with things if we get the ball rolling. Okay, now we're done with this. Now let's look at this. Another one, very, very important. I love this one again. ETC. And this, I specifically put these things because on a day to day, I would say I don't necessarily interact with them on as much, but every now and then you need to do a configuration. Hey, at least now I know, for example, if I need anything that has to do with any configuration files, anything that has to do with configuration lives in the etc directory, right? For example, if you get a ticket that says configure something in the Linux server that this, like by default, you're already thinking if it mentions configuration and the etc directory has all the configuration files. And you will notice that etc directory is so goddamn important. That's where it stores the hash value of your password. We're going to see all of
Mm.
that as well
Okay.
as we proceed. So just know that etc has what configuration files. It has, for example, some of the configuration files include what your user information. It has, for example, look at here. These are all the users in my system, and some of these users you will see, and this is so good because some of these users. Oh, let me see. I don't have none here. So as we proceed again, I will break down what because all of this fields mean something. You see, for example, you see solo, you see a column, you see an X, you see another column, you see 1000, you see another column, you see all of these things mean something. Oh. They're not just there for their
Mm,
sake. They mean something and they have a significant some significant reason why they're there. So we're going to see all of that, all of these things. So do not worry yourself about just looking at this screen and like, nah, we're gonna see all of these things practically. This is just an overview. So etc cars all the configuration files, and then now let's look at some other directories. Take the OPT. OPT again. This is just a recommendation. This is a recommended directory for installing a software, right? This is just as per Linux, like how do you say? It's just a
will you say you
recommendation.
can use that directory like for installing Firefox, for example?
Exactly. So again, I said optional software. So it's just the recommended directory. For example, for us in my organization, we use OPT for installing Splunk, right?
Oh,
So
okay.
we use Splunk for we use Splunk for logs, like interrogate log interrogation. We get all the logs from our systems and then upload it to our indexer and then but but the way that happens, we install it, we specify a folder where we want it to install it. And by default, Linux recommends that OPT is where you should. But however, you can decide, you can create even your own folder. Look, and the good thing too is in the root folder, I forgot to mention this. In here, it does not mean that it does not mean that because we have all these files, you cannot create your own file in here or your own folder in here. You can also come and you can create your own folder that falls under here. For example, you can create a folder called Steve or Owen, for example. You can make directory. The only thing is, if you're gonna create a directory that belongs to root,
Yeah.
you're going to need special privileges because again, root is the guy, the first user to account to be created in the system, and it's also the account with the highest level of privilege. Right? It's also account with the highest level of privilege. That is why always is recommended that when you set up your Linux server, you should disable the root account. You should disable the root account because for accidental stuff, disable it and then create other user admin accounts and give them access. And you can give them again. You can use what we call RBAC, role-based access control, where you can limit the kind of permissions that you want to give to that user. Or now Linux has gotten so good that you can integrate it with Windows Active Directory. When you integrate it with Windows Active Directory, you have the opportunity to push fuck, I was trying to say something, guys. I'll be losing my thought train every now and then. Oh boy, Wahala. I just forgot what I was trying to say. Um, where was I? I was saying OPT.
You
Yo,
were talking about the Splunk and
yeah, I was just trying to, I was just trying to emphasize on the fact that, in as much as this is the recommended, you
yeah.
can as well come in here, create a folder in here. But I was only saying that when you create a folder in here, you have to understand that anything under root is going to be owned by root. And to access root, you have to have special permissions. But again, don't stress about this. We're gonna see this. This part, the only takeaway that I want you guys to take from here today is just understand that Linux begins with the Linux file the Linux file system, and Linux file system is the top level file system. Everything else falls under Linux file system. And then all I want you again to understand, key takeaway from today's lesson, is just to know that there are some key folders under Linux under the root directory, and some of them, like we have seen, is bin, is boot. We've seen home. We've seen what home does, stores user information, right? We've seen etc. etc is a special configuration files, and then now we've seen opt, and we're seeing that opt is just an optional place where you can install your software. And then now there's another one, sbin. Now we saw bin, and now there's sbin. I don't know. Can anybody just like tell me just give me a guess what you think sbin is gonna do. We saw bin. So what do you think sbin is gonna do?
Like what has been gonna do compared to bin?
Yeah, we saw bin. So bin,
has
think of
been.
yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. No, I thought you wanted to say something.
Oh no, go ahead, go ahead.
I think SBin for me, I think SBin is gonna give. I mean, bin may be just commands that you can run. You don't need like elevated permissions to run those commands, but SBin now brings that sort of administrative privileges, like gives you more rights, basically. That's how I think of it.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Steve, anything?
I'll say that since bin is like considered as like a file earlier, so it's like it has all the essential comments, right, for all the users. But then as being, it's like it has all the criticals comment, I would say, but for the root.
Perfect. Yep, both answers amazing. So yeah, sbin or secured bin, that's what it's called. So the secured bin, so
It's like a
just
super user.
yeah, exact. No, not a super user. Yep, think of it like a super user, because you only a super user can run commands that are found in the sbin. So again, sbin contains binaries, just like we saw for bin. Bin has binaries that, again, the key difference here is that bin has binaries that any user can run. Bin has commands that any user on the system can run. Sbin has commands that only users with elevated privileges can run. For example, in an organization, do you think every Jack and Jill should have the privilege to shut down a server? For example, it could be a critical server in production. Do you think anybody should just be able to type power off or shut down or reboot the system? No, we give them restrictive access. They can get in the server, they can do stuff, but hey, when you go as far as rebooting a server, they're gonna tell you you have limited permissions. So So sbin, and now that in
Mm.
and now in Linux, that's why we have commands like sudo. So for example, anything that has to do with sudo, any command that you have to use sudo for is gonna be commands that are gonna be in the sbin. Because sudo means superdoer. You're trying to run a command as root. So as root, which means that with the highest privilege. So any command that has elevated privileges is going to be stored in the sbin. It's as simple as that. Any questions?
So for good.
Okay. Okay. Then
How about you, Ben?
No, no questions. I think that was good
okay.
explanation.
Okay.
All right, perfect. And then we have the another folder. We have the temp file. This one is just temporary files, and again, it does not persist between reboots, right? Say, for example, any file that is stored in the temp, it could just be, I don't know, it could also just be temporary logs, temporary files, and it could just be any user, like any user can write to that directory. But pretty much, you can even copy stuff into that directory. But the only difference is that they're temporary files. So the moment you reboot that server, those files are gonna be deleted. They're gonna be gone. So
Mm.
that's what that folder is for. And then this thing, it starts at what user binaries and data, contains user binaries, libraries, documentation, and other data not required for systems basic. This one does not, it just stores more information about the user. Remember, the user has the user's information, or the user's information is stored in the home directory, right?
Yes.
We saw the slash home, and then now we're saying that again there's another folder called slash user. It stores other user data or other user binaries, but again, these data or these binaries are not required for systems basic operation. It's just good to know that it's there. You don't really need it necessarily, but hey, if you ever wanted to know more information about the user, it's going to be found in this folder. If you go to slash user, you're going to find maybe a specific user, and then you're going to find more information that is applicable to them. And then we have slash var. I love this one because this one, variable data, what is a good example of that? Logs. Logs are always fluctuating. Logs are changing because today, maybe your log file is showing that maybe your system is running low on memory, or maybe your log is showing that a specific account was trying to hack into the system. So, it's gathering all those logs, right? So a var is something that stores variable data that is not the same. That data is always constantly changing. So that's why it's called var, as in variable. And a typical example of that is logs. Logs are never the same. The logs that are going to be captured in your system today, for example, now if you were to go into your Windows server, go into something like a event viewer, for example.
Yes.
Why am I even doing that? Let's look at this. If we were to go into this guy, for example, because in Windows, this is where we have all our logs, right? So we have custom, for example, we have our Windows logs, and we can have application. Now, if say you when you're starting an application, you're gonna have this. Those logs are gonna be here. It's gonna tell you when the application is being installed. You're gonna see everything in here. If it's a security concern, if it's something that concerns setup, if it's something about maybe RAM, memory, and shit like that, system info is gonna be stored in here. So, for example, if we go in here, let me see. Just wait for this guy to load real quick.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna wrap up in just a few.
Got it.
Yeah. What the fuck? Okay, perfect. So for example, you see, all of these are logs, and you're gonna see that these logs are gonna vary. For example, look at all of these. You know, they're not the same. They're not the same stuff. They're all different information. And that's what we're saying, that the slash var, think of slash var as event viewer in Windows. This is event viewer. In this thing in Linux, we have slash var. If you seed into slash var, you're gonna see var logs, and then inside logs, you're gonna see log messages and things like that. I think you're gonna see var log messages eventually that's what you're going to see. So it again, logs are variable data. They change depending on whatever is happening on the system, depending on what's going on in the system. A specific process can wake up one day and it's chopping memory and then like, maybe filling up a disk drive and things like that. And then like, the system is going to gather those logs. The next day, an application may go down. Like you just don't know. It has variable data. And then we have another. Any question regarding this, Va?
No, so far.
No,
Okay,
no question.
perfect. And then we have slash mount, a common directory to temporarily mount external file systems and devices. Say, for example, you wanted to create a mount point, right? I don't know if you guys have heard of Samba. Samba is a. Have you guys heard of Samba?
Amber, no, I've not heard
Sam,
of
yeah,
that.
Samba. So Samba, yeah. So Samba was a it was because Linux and Windows, it was think of how the operating systems are. Like, one is a GUI graphical user interface, and another one is a command line, right? So sometimes to to copy files from Linux versus Windows can be very, very complex and can be difficult, and that's why, and again, because you can use the SCP command and all that bullshit, right? But it's not very, very sustainable because right now I don't even remember the command. Like, I just know if I want to copy stuff, I can use SCP. But now you through something, there's a software called Samba in Linux, where Samba is a software that enables you or permits you to create a mount point, where you can create a mount point where you can instantly sync data between your Windows and your Linux file systems. Man, Samba is so dope. Like
Mm,
Samba is so dope. When I came across it, I was like, wow. I had the privilege to work on this in school too. So I did some of this where like we created like a mount point for Samba, and then you just basically install the software, and then but we're saying that data like that where you create mount point to be able to like communicate with other devices. Think of it like a shared drive in Windows. Of course, at work you put most definitely your team has a shared drive. Yeah,
yes.
yeah, you have a shared drive. So with that shared drive, that think of it, it's a mount point, right? Because that those drives they've been mounted somewhere to kind of like map it with your profile to make it accessible for everybody within your team, right? So we're saying
Mm,
that information like that or how that was configured is going to be how it's going to be where like the slash mount is where that information is going to be stored. So a common directory to temporarily store or mount external file system and devices. Any questions regarding this one?
mm, no, no, no question.
Okay, perfect. All right, so that's it. There's more this thing. Let me show you guys. I think did I not drop a link? If I did not drop a link, that's crazy, then. Linux. Oh, this is. Oh no, Linux actually explain.
That's the one.
Oh yeah, this is it.
It
So
goes
this
to a
link.
YouTube video. Mhm.
Yeah. So yeah, this link. It goes to a YouTube video or like it's supposed to go to like a Google link online. Are you sure it's a YouTube video? It's supposed to
Yeah.
take you to like a. I made this into like a. Which is you have links.
Did he open it? Oh, my bad, my
Yeah, this
bad.
is it. Yeah,
It's
you
not a
bro,
YouTube video.
you got me
It's an
fucked up.
ticket.
Yeah, okay, good. Yeah. It should take you directly here, leave directory structure explained. So if you want to like go zip and like, understand more, which I highly recommend. And like, what I recommend, like when you're doing the early days of this, just take the advantage. Don't let things pile up before you start like, trying to find out things. So just
Okay.
use this week, revise some of these things, and this will be good because like every chapter I have some assignments that will really help you do like a recap of everything that we've done, what we've talked about, and then it's gonna give you some hands-on, like some discussion. So for this one, let's see the assignment that we have for this one.
Okay.
So yeah, so for this one right here, let's just look at the recap real quick. Again, we talked about open source, right, versus free software versus licensed software, and we talked about food, where I made an example where you come to my house or you go to a restaurant, you come to my house, you basically eat and you pay me. That's a licensed software example of license. you pay for it. Then free, you come to my house, I give you food, you don't pay, that's free. And then the other option was like, you come and then like, I give you the food and then I also like show you how it was made, basically the recipe, right? So we talked about that. And then another key aspect that we saw as well was the case sensitivity in Linux, right? We're saying that ls is different from ls. Lowercase ls is different from uppercase ls. It's not the same. And then we also dive deeper to understand the Linux root file system, right? And we've seen that it starts with what? The root, the forward slash, the starting point of Linux file system. Again, I made reference to the Windows C drive, which is pretty much the same thing.
Mhm.
So the starting point of all Linux file system, all directories branch from here. And then we saw some important directories like the bin, the home, the etc, the var, the user. We saw the sbin, and we saw others as well. We saw the slash boot as well. So as for the assignment, I just want you guys to like, refresh your memory on this again. You know, compare and contrast this. You're gonna have it. It's gonna be page 15. Yeah. So just compare and contrast this. We'll discuss it briefly again next class before we proceed. And then again, explain why understanding case sensitivity is critical when working in Linux. Provide 3 examples of possible issues that could arise if case sensitivity is ignored. You know, provide 3 possible examples. And this one, for these examples, what I want one for this specific example is I want you to actually get on the command line and show me, right? Do like an uppercase ls and let's see what it's doing, versus lowercase ls and see what it's
Mhm.
doing. So yeah, so we understand what we're talking about. We talk about case sensitivity. And then now for the root file system, I want you to list and briefly explain the purpose of 5 key directories. Pick any key directories of your choice of the Linux. It could be bin, sbin, anything. Just try and understand them so that we can discuss about it next class. Pick any 5 that you're comfortable with and let's talk about it. Directories and then how does understanding these directories help you manage or troubleshoot a Linux system? For example, how does knowing the var, the slash var directory help you in troubleshooting Linux? You can tell me like, hey, since you already know that the var stores variable things or like the log messages, since var stores variable data, and a good example of variable data is messages, log messages, right? So you know that if there's something wrong with the system, the first thing you want to see is read log messages. That's what I do. Like when something is wrong, you have to check the logs. What are the logs saying? Because the answer is always in the logs. The logs is telling you the system is acting up because something is this, maybe the drive is filling up. Maybe, I don't know, maybe something needs to be configured properly.
Yes.
Yeah. So you have to tell me like how does understanding the slash etc helps you better troubleshoot Linux system? If you know that etc has stores or configuration files, for example, if we're talking about configuring a server and things like that, you already if we have to get a ticket where we say configure something in the server, like the first thing that you're thinking about is the etc directory, because that's where we have most of our configuration files. So I want to hear things like that when we're discussing. All
Okay.
right. So next class, next Sunday we're gonna start jumping into some of this good stuff, seeing some of the basic Linux commands. Again, I have a link here for like top 50 Linux commands that, you know, most of the times you see on a day-to-day when you're working in this field. So yeah. So yeah. And any questions before we call it a night?
No, no, no.
All right, perfect.
No, no. No
Awesome. Do you guys
questions.
do
Thank
you
you
do
for the
you
session.
do you guys feel like this is good? Like, like you're learning something? Because I
Yes.
don't want okay.
Yep, yep.
All right,
I feel like
perfect.
it's good. Yeah, explanations, and it's always good to start like explaining to like a layman, then bringing it into like the actual IT terminology. But yeah,